I was talking to a founder recently who told me, I don't understand why my team isn't taking more ownership. But as she kept talking, she said things like, they like to check with me first, or it's just faster for me to do it, or I like to review things before they go out. And I just gently said, of course they do. Because when everything has to run through you, you create a system and a culture where things cannot run without you. And suddenly, you're not leading a team, you are carrying one. Like literally, imagine that you are building a ladder. You go ahead of your people, you build this amazing, beautiful ladder, and then they get to, on their own, climb the ladder that you've built. Now imagine building the ladder and then carrying your whole team on your back as you climb. It sounds exhausting and it sounds really inefficient. And if that's hitting a nerve, you're not alone. And we're going to talk about it together today. And by the end of this episode, you're going to have the exact conversation you need to start shifting ownership and finally stop carrying people up the ladder. I'm going to start today with some bold statements that will hopefully be a relief to you, okay? You ready for this? Here we go. You don't need better employees. You do not need a bigger team, and you probably don't need more systems. You need better leadership habits. It is so tempting at first to assume that our employees aren't skilled enough or self-motivated enough, or we assume that we need new job descriptions so that we can hire more expert-focused employees, but it's just not true. So let me put it like this. I have 3 children. More often than not, they are not great at cleaning the house. When I release this episode, my kids are 10, 7, and 5. They're young, but they're very capable. So since I have a team of 3 and they don't do a great job cleaning my house, what do you think I should do? I should probably get better kids, right? Like maybe exchange a few. Or maybe I should just have 3 more kids. That will definitely help my housework situation. Or I probably need another chore chart or a new way to gamify chores. No, not those things. What do I need to do? I need to equip and empower them to do it. I need to show them how, let them fail, let them grow, and then give them harder tasks after they master the first. So if I teach my 7-year-old how to make his bed, then proceed to make it for him when he forgets or when it's wrong or when he's doing it slowly, I just keep myself busy and I rob him of the chance to figure it out. And that hurts both of us. And this makes sense, right? We can see it in examples, silly, exaggerated examples like this, but it's harder to see it with our teams in our businesses. And that's just because you are a deeply invested, highly capable person, and you have built something so great, so important to you. And it's hard to even take a step in the direction of taking a risk that someone who doesn't love this as much as you or doesn't know it as much as you will mess it up. You care, you're good at what you do, and without realizing it, you have become the center of everything, and everything moves at the speed of you. So, what does this look like tangibly on your team? I can tell you what it looked like for me. Friend, listen, the reason I can speak about this to you right now isn't because I have overcome it. I have struggled with this in the past. I still struggle with it. I am teaching it and reteaching it to myself over and over and over again, and I'm right here with you. So, in the past, with my former teams, I have found this fearful control. Let's call it what it is. I've seen it show up in giving detailed directives. So instead of saying, here's the desired outcome, here are the parameters, here's point A, here's point B, and then letting them get there, I would give them the step-by-step instructions, how to get to point B from point A, in exactly the way I think it should happen. I would also just give all the answers when people came to me with questions. You want to know how to do this thing? This is how. I had the answer. And I also wasted a lot of time in staff meetings and one-on-one meetings by using them for status reports instead of for connection, for strategy, for coaching. And like you, I didn't want to be doing this. I just didn't know how to let go of the reins when each decision just matters so greatly. So for other leaders I coach, this bottleneck situation shows up in reviewing or redoing a lot of work, things stalling when they're unavailable or on vacation. It shows up in burnout because they can't unplug, and it shows up in frustration because they feel like they can't trust their team. And you didn't build this thing for it to feel like this, right? So why? Why are we like this? Well, I have a few reasons as to why we as founders turned leaders do this with our teams. And the first is just fear of letting go. This comes from the limiting belief I have to be involved, or if I don't hold this, it might fall apart. And that fear is understandable when you've given so much of yourself to build this ladder, to build this business. But, friend, a limiting belief is a lie. It's just not true. It's the story we tell ourselves. So, my oldest son is in a writing program and it's pretty rigorous. It's his first year. He'll have 2 more years in the same program. And the goal of this program is for the parent to be involved at the beginning, and then over time the student becomes more and more independent, and this process prepares them to move into 7th grade in this program. So right now he's in 4th grade. I feel like I am learning everything for the first time all over again, and we've been figuring it out together. But throughout this year he hasn't been able to do much of it without my direct help, which is normal, or so I thought. So, I wanted him to do well. I wanted him to understand it. I wanted him to really get it. So every time there was an assignment, which is every week, I sat with him and we worked through it together. I mean, I didn't want him to feel frustrated or overwhelmed. I definitely didn't want him to fail. And that sounds well meaning, right? Well, I have 2 other kids that I homeschool 3 days a week. And one day I was making my rounds and my 10-year-old decided he was not going to wait for me. Not only did he write his paper, it was good, like really good. And I realized I didn't even know he could write like that without me sitting next to him. I mean, how could I have known? I never gave him the chance. I was believing the lie, totally subconsciously, that I had to be involved. The second reason we do this is because of unclear expectations. Your team can't possibly own what has not been clearly defined. And this is so common. We don't lay out a clear vision for the outcome or for what the parameters are, and then we end up stepping in to meet the standards that we never actually communicated. We make assumptions about what they already know, and we're not explicit about what we are looking for. And then when they come up short, we make it their problem, not ours. Okay, the third reason we stay as the bottleneck is that stepping back threatens our identity. Whew. Okay, I was coaching a founder who had built this beautiful nonprofit over the course of 10 years, and it was scaling and it was growing, and she was finding herself in a very familiar place, being the bottleneck. And when I asked her, she said she trusted her people. She knew they were capable. But at the end of the day, she said something really honest. She said, if I hand this off, I will not be needed anymore. The things she had always done, the things that gave her meaning and purpose and identity would now be in other people's hands. And then the questions start flooding in. What does that mean about me? Where does that leave me? What do I even do with my time if I am not doing all of this? And in that tension, she just started to drift a little. Maybe I don't actually need to hand this off, she thought. Or maybe I should just keep doing it all myself. Or worse, maybe they don't actually need me anymore. If I give this all up, maybe they won't actually need me at all. And that fear, that identity shift is often what keeps us right stuck in the center of everything. And the final reason we do this is because it feels easier and it feels more comfortable. When we just do it ourselves or we fix it ourselves, we avoid the awkward, sometimes gut twisting reality of having to have a hard conversation with someone about what they didn't do right. And that honestly can just keep us up at night. It can make us feel sick to our stomach. And you know what, friend? That isn't because you are not a good leader. It's because no one ever taught you how to have those conversations. People who are good at those conversations aren't better than you. They've been trained and they've practiced. Okay, raise your hand if you had formal leadership training for the role you're in right now. If I could see you, I'm guessing your hands would be down, right? You got to where you are because you were excellent at something. And because of that, you got promoted into leadership where you needed to scale and build a team, moving you from something you were already an expert in to something you are new to and untrained in. You're fully capable, you're just untrained. And I'm going to get into what we do with all of this in a minute. But first, I just want to encourage you to go to heycaralist.com/feedback and grab my never have a hard conversation again feedback template. And then I walk you through the exact steps that no one ever taught you so that you can build the skills and confidence to move into those conversations instead of running away from them. So go and grab it at heycaralist.com/feedback or just grab that link in the show notes. Okay. I have said all the hard things. All the hard things are done. Okay, take a deep breath. Now we move toward the light, toward some hope. And don't worry, this is not the part where I tell you, just let go. Let go of everything. Cross your fingers, hope for the best. That's not it. We are not releasing control with crossed fingers, okay? We're replacing control with something Much, much better. We're replacing it with clarity. And I want to make this really simple for you because clarity does not need to be a big abstract idea. It actually shows up in 5 very specific ways. So the first is clarity around what success looks like, not the version in your head, not the they should just know what I mean version, but clearly defined. What does good actually look like here? If someone on your team did this without you in the room, right? If they did their job and you weren't there to tell them, would it still match your standard? And if not, you have not clearly defined what good looks like on your team. Okay, the second is clarity around ownership. And this is where so much confusion lives. Who actually owns this? Not we're all responsible, but really, really clear. Who's driving it? Who makes the call? And where does it stop being yours and start being theirs? Like, where is that line? The third is clarity around decision making, because a lot of bottlenecks aren't really about effort, they're about uncertainty, right? So you look at it and you think they're not working hard enough or they're not doing it, but they're just uncertain. Your team is consistently wondering, do I have the authority to decide this? Should I ask? Should I wait? And if that isn't clear, of course they're going to come back to you. And that's not a people problem, that is a clarity problem. Okay, the fourth is clarity around what to do when something is off, because things will go off. That's just what it's like working with people. But do our people know what happens next? Do they fix it? Do they flag it? Do they bring it to you? Do they freeze and wait? What are they supposed to do? Finally, the fifth is clarity around how you respond to wins and mistakes. This one is huge because it shapes culture more than anything else. Do people know what happens when they get it right? Do they feel seen, celebrated, reinforced? Does that happen? And do they know what happens when they get it wrong? Do they know they will get feedback and an opportunity to discuss it, to learn and grow? Do they know, do they feel and see that you will lean in with curiosity and not blame? Because every time you respond to a win or mistake, you are either building confidence or you're building hesitation. And that's where feedback becomes everything. That's where you start building a culture where people don't just do the work, they learn how to grow in the work. So make sure you grab that feedback template. And here's the shift I really want you to hear, okay? Here it is, friend. Your team doesn't need less of you. They need you where you add the most value, not stepping in and taking over, not completely being hands off and hoping for the best, but the version of you who brings clarity, says things directly, sets the expectation, and then actually lets people own it. And then stays connected through ongoing conversations, feedback conversations, not control. Now, are you ready for that easy next step, the conversation I promised at the beginning of the episode? Okay, here it is. Okay, pick one area where you know you're holding too much. That one project, that one task, that one recurring thing where you're quietly or not so quietly staying involved. And then have this conversation. You can literally say this: hey, I've been thinking about how this is working. And I think I've been holding too much of it. And I want to shift more ownership to you. But I also want to be really clear about what success looks like so we are all set up well. Can we talk through what this looks like, what decisions you can make on your own, and where you'd still loop me in? Okay, that's it. It's not delivering a speech. You're not making this complicated. You're not opening a conversation that changes a relationship dynamic, and you're not building a whole new system. Okay. And then in that conversation, there are really 3 things you're doing, right? If you heard it, this is what you were doing. You were defining success, what good actually looks like. So there's no guessing. You're clarifying decision rights, what they own, what you own, what doesn't need to come back to you, what does need to come back to you. And then you're agreeing on check-in points. So you're staying connected, but not controlling. And by doing this, you are slowly and intentionally just stepping back while getting clearer at the same time. So, who do you need to have that conversation with? I want you to challenge yourself to have that conversation this week. Get the chat scheduled and just do it. Just take that one step. And if you're listening to this thinking, it's not that bad here. I don't feel like I have to have my hands in everything. Okay, but I still want you to challenge yourself to step back on one more thing. What is that one more thing going to be? Before we wrap this up, I want to come back to this ladder idea one more time, right? You built the ladder, your business, your team, your department, and you care about it deeply. It means so much to you. You don't want anything to happen to it. You don't want this ladder to wobble or fall apart. So you find yourself doing what so many leaders do. You keep carrying your people up it. You stay close, you steady everything, you try to control all the variables. But what if the focus was never meant to be the ladder in the first place? What if the focus has always been the people? What if the win isn't just keeping everything standing perfectly still, but actually stepping back and seeing the people climb up on their own? And what if stepping back a little doesn't mean things fall apart? What if it's actually what allows both things to happen? The people grow and the ladder stays standing. Just a thought. Yes, you built it. Yes, it matters. Yes, it's been your world. But now you also have the chance to share it, and in sharing it, to see everyone and everything thrive. And what a gift that is. Okay, friend, go have that conversation this week. I believe you can do it. Okay, I believe that you are exactly the leader your team needs. And I'm over here cheering you on. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.